Hello, everyone. I wanted to have a discussion with everyone in the community, especially with James Rink. And I'm going to focus on James Rink today. James Rink, as you know, are from Super Soldier Talk, and also James Ring from the Facebook account. And first of all, I feel terrible about how he's feeling. I knew that he had some health issues. No one ever feels good about anything like that, especially someone who's very young, shouldn't be going through anything like that. And I'm sure it's bringing up a lot of questions. And I too have had issues, thyroid issues, and multiple people that I know. And it's been really hard on the super soldiers. Some of the things that we've all experienced. And it is not a part of the program that it has to happen, but there are many elements that were involved that created this. And I would like Peter to probably at some point come forward and talk about what is going on. And I did see a mention of reference to Chernobyl-like symptoms. And yes, um, there was an incident, but because we are not in communication, that information was never revealed or passed over. So we have an idea. Not everyone's affected by it, and there's many soldiers, but there's a handful of us that are being affected over and above that. Our world is becoming more dangerous due to these warlike issues, and people are experimenting and going back into doing more testing, as we've discovered with Peter, especially on the East Coast. And the West Coast as well, where we had some fallout happen, and we try to warn everyone about it. And there's some natural doctors that know how to deal with some of these things, but if it's not been handled early on, that becomes a bigger issue. But it doesn't make us feel happy or anyone feel happy to see a situation like this. But sometimes I think the sickness happens early from the sickness of disconnect, communication, and problems opens the door to other problems. And it has been festering for quite some time now, and it's misunderstandings, communication, and a whole array of problems. I just want to go over a sequence of events that had occurred and try to explain some things. I know it can be exhaustive, but it seems that people keep on having questions after we explain something, and then there's more questions. And so I'm going to try my best. Um, so early on, James and Peter collaborated. I was already working with Peter. Peter, had met James, so I was working with him first. And then as they started working together, they brought me into the shows. I was, working for Peter, and I was with the 6th Division. So, and James was one of the soldiers that Peter was talking to, but also James had a show that was pre-existing, and he was already focused on this topic with meeting some of the earlier soldiers in the past, whether it was Montauk related or something else. So, uh, so we began, talking about these things. And Peter was on multiple shows. And then I noticed that there was starting to become problems. And one of the problems was people were not receiving Peter well. They were, I don't know, they made comments about his accent, made comments about the way he was talking, his idiosyncrasies, his expressions. Sometimes he would, for lack of finding the right word, he would repeat himself or go in a loop, or sometimes he couldn't say certain things for security reasons, and it was creating all these different types of speech issues. But most people would try to, work through it and see where he was going on it. And then James would ask questions, and then we would get to some point of understanding. And eventually, with multiple conversations with Peter privately, he and I, were understanding what was going on. I'm saying, like, I already knew, much of what was going on with Peter, but as a group, when we worked together as a group early on, that was happening. And then I started seeing comments that were it was ugly. It was very, I don't know, say racist or you know, almost like so offensive against any culture. It was on the level of hate, like really nasty, nasty comments. And I it happened show after show, and I said to Peter, this is becoming a problem. I said, because it's almost like I didn't want to see him disrespected to that level. I don't think any person should be treated that way, especially when you're just there to reveal information and people mocking or making unnecessary comments. And I thought that was he didn't deserve that. I don't think anyone deserves it. And not to mention that I have quite a few friends from the Balkan region, the Slavic regions, and they were very offended as well. So I asked James to remove some of those comments, and he had um, a way of running his channel where he didn't want to remove anything because he thought then that would be like censoring people. And so it sort of brought us to a crossroad where I said to Peter, I said, this is I don't know if it's helping people if you're getting that disrespected. I don't know if they appreciate the information you're providing because they're getting so hung up on the way that you talk. And I said, I don't, it's almost like casting the pearls before the swine. And I don't want to even say it like that. I know that some people just don't understand, and there was some levels of immaturity, or maybe there was some just dislike towards people from that region. I don't know. It just wasn't very evolved. It wasn't the kind of environment I thought we should be in. And especially in the level of intel that Peter was bringing in, I thought we deserved much more. So I told Peter, I think he did a few shows after without me, and then he understood, and I showed him the comments. And so we had to, create a crossroad for us to kind of pull away. But we weren't saying we didn't want to talk to James anymore. And I said, why don't you come over to my channel, and, we could still do some shows and we could talk about things. But I think at that point there, it started to create distrust and a rift. And who knows, maybe there were other things that bothered him. I don't know. It was never expressed to me. But that was the reason why I started to pull away. And I think most people will understand. Some people will not. Some people will say, well, you should have just stayed there and, went talk back to them, or you should have just ignored it. Um, no, I don't think anyone should really be in an environment where you're not accepted, and you're or an environment where you're disclosing information, and you just want to be respected for who you are. And that's why people don't typically go on shows where they think they're not going to be treated right. And I think that's only fair. I mean, no one wants to go to a store where you're going to be mistreated, or um, you know, live in a neighborhood where you're going to be mistreated. So it's the same thing. I always say, you be around friends, be around people that like you. And especially with these topics, they're very, very fringe. So it can be taken a few different ways, and some people accept, some people won't. But at least you will be amongst friends while doing it. And it's okay to, of course, I mean, we share information with the public, but um, I will not allow people to dislike what we're doing based off of some the way Peter talks or his accent or anything like that, or even if they don't like the way I talk, or like someone made a reference they didn't like my hair. Those kind of things. We don't need that. I don't think anyone needs that. And early on I did have some bad hair days, just to lighten this up a little bit. But I'll own it. I'll say that's true. I really didn't. But those were some really rough times for me. I had to travel from one place to the next, and I was very targeted at that time. And even though it hasn't changed, I've learned to adapt to it. But which kind of goes back to what we were saying earlier about how the attacks are happening, and even a good friend of mine got attacked last night. So in her back, and you know, I mean, where is it coming from? It's crazy. A few different places for sure, but some people think it's us. But why would we be hitting ourselves? I don't know where that philosophy came from. After Peter did some shows with us, I believe that the last show was January 23rd, 2021. And at some point after that, Peter and James had a conversation. I was not there. And I don't know, Peter was asking him a question or something. But it triggered James. He got very angry, and so angry that he hung up on Peter and blocked Peter. And since 2021, they have not spoken. Um, it's not because Peter held a grudge. We we felt like James wanted to cut off from us. We felt like he just wanted to go off on his own. He didn't want to be associated with us. And the negativity, I think, surrounding everything was hard for me. And in another way, it was hard for him because his peers maybe didn't want to have Peter around. And there was pressure and other things going on. But James continued using Peter's content. We started noticing, I mean, we knew that he was going to events and doing things, and we noticed that he was with other people who were talking about us, who were talking about us negatively, and people that I didn't talk to. I know Peter had talked to them, this woman in particular. I never really talked to her, but she really disliked us, and she was always posting things about us and try to talk about it, and everybody jumped down our throat. And um, there's no history there. There was no connection. I don't know if there was one interaction with Peter, but there was no other connection whatsoever other than friendship, maybe with James. And then maybe James was complaining about us or thought we were going to do something to him, and which we didn't. I mean, if someone says that they don't want to be around us, that's their choice. If they want to go and talk about something, that's their choice. And my philosophy was if Peter gave him this information, even if uh he was angry at us, that was his information, that was his history. And I didn't want to say, oh, James, you shouldn't talk about anything regarding what Peter told you, because Peter gave that to him. Peter shared that with him, and he continued talking about it. And then we were concerned that, Peter's name was being left out more and more towards the end. And then um, that became a bit of an issue too, because it was Peter's content, but other people getting credit for Peter's content too, then it became popular. So it's kind of been a struggle. And someone might say, well, this is just really petty, Jessica. Well, maybe to you, maybe to some other people, but not to me. Because as I explained to you, I'm going to go up this ladder of our history here so you can understand why the sequence of events led up to something else. And I tried to reach out to James. So Peter stopped talking to him in around 2021. I would, he would text me, I'd respond. There'd be a little bit of a little something of a conversation, but there was always a distance. And I knew it wasn't quite right. And he asked me about some of the things that Peter said, and I said, well, this is military. And that I don't know if it's true. Someone says, oh yeah, I don't want to drink the Kool-Aid or whatever. There's no Kool-Aid. It's just military protocol is military protocol, and the 12th Division is military, as opposed to the wing makers, which is they're about the archaeologists, scientists. This is different. This is about military. And in any military, across the board, go to any nation, um, even in comic books or anything, there's a protocol. And there's certain expectations to be on one of Peter's teams and to be involved in what he's doing. Some people aren't cut out for that, even though maybe in the past they were. Maybe they don't want it anymore. We understand that too. Uh, we don't make decisions for people. People have pre-existing history regarding their super soldier connections. And if they chose to go AWOL, um, away without a leave, that's between them and the upper command. And that is definitely beyond me. And even with Peter, those decisions, what Peter does is he'll say, you know, you're not with one of our teams on the ACIO, but he does not go. The super soldier program will acknowledge that, you know, whether or not that people want to work with Peter or they're with some other program, um, possibly, but Peter doesn't have to have people on his team if he doesn't want to work with them, if he doesn't trust them, and if he doesn't think that they'd, you know, the team would have their six with them behind them, you know. You want to be safe. And we've already had soldiers that are defunct, that have stepped away, and that have compromised a lot of other soldiers. And that too could be a result of why people are getting sick or injured, is because there's gaps, as those that have left. It's free will, but it has harmed us. And there are people that are not related to us at all. They're not soldiers, they're not a part of any of these programs, but are giving advice to soldiers. They're giving advice. They're not qualified to give advice to the soldiers. And I'm not saying that they're not qualified individuals. Some of them are intelligent. Some of them are giving sound advice according to what they perceive. They see that they're upset and they're unhappy with the situation, and they're giving them advice. But they don't understand what it's like, that you are in a battle in some other reality, and now you're saying just stand there and do nothing, or try to step away, or leave, or leave and have all of the other soldiers killed or injured in the process, and they don't understand what's going on. And so a lot of those type of people, whether they're New Age or some other element, and maybe they think, oh, this is bad, you should get out of it. It's not like that. It's not really bad. It's a neutral thing. Everyone has a role in some kind of experience. And you know, maybe they were more into, you know, going off and living an aesthetic life, or guru teachings or something like that, which is fine, but that's not this. It's a whole different thing. And I've been in and out of the different communities, so I know the difference. You could talk about something like this, but if you don't fully understand, please don't make any judgment. You don't understand. The people are here, that they are actively protecting and trying to help humanity. And if no one's helping humanity, this wonderful world that we're living in, no one's going to really fully experience it. And I'm not trying to scare anyone, but I'm telling you, there's a reality to this. And otherwise, I wouldn't be that invested in it. I'm not in this for any other purpose. You don't see me out there trying to be on stage, trying to be in this situation or another. Literally trying to reach out to those that I know that are active and that are doing things that are harming people or not harming people, or they need to be aware of their abilities. They don't believe their abilities, but they're actually affecting things. And just trying to make people aware of certain things so that we can have a beautiful life here, and not a future where we are getting decimated over and over and over again. And you know, the multi scenarios that we talk about in many of the shows. So these is also the topic of James recently, probably about a year ago, accused us of handling him. And I said, I can't even believe this. We're not even around you. To him, it seemed like it was real. I think he really believed he could respond to this, but um, no, we walked away. We walked away because you asked us to. We respected your word, and then you're upset. You think that we didn't respect your word, but we did. But then some people would say that's cruel that you walked away, but that was his choice. And I would do that with anyone. If someone says, I don't want to be a part of this, okay. You only have to tell me once. I'm not going to beg you to come back in because there's too many people that want to be here and helping. And I want those people to step up and help in the way that they want to help. And those people that maybe if they've had enough of it, maybe their soldiering has gone on for too many years and they're just done. Maybe not maybe, but I know there's another intertwining issue of it's disinformation that when you're a soldier that you are going through all that they send you to these my labs first, and that's not the case. Montauk is not part of the SSP program where you have to go through and get violated and all this other stuff. That's not how it works unless you're with corporations. So what's happening is there are people that want to cut out from what the ACIO is talking about, the super soldiers related to those programs, and then instead they're going into these breakout civilizations, these breakout soldiers, which are typically either working for the agencies or they're working for the corporations. And their agendas are about depopulation, well, for the corporations in particular, and their agendas also require my labs. So there is a difference. But because people were not listening to us and they chose to listen to other people who were fear-mongering and trying to create further trauma and telling people that when they got abducted or this, that, and the other thing happened, just because Peter was talking about it, he's warning people, don't get involved in any of this stuff. But they chose that others should be their leadership, that others should give them information, the others, because they saw so many people were coming to them, they decided to take the liberty to tell people whatever they thought, not fully knowing, not fully caring, and not considering the circumstances of what was happening. And then you have these groups of people that feel traumatized, they feel helpless, and on top of that, they blamed us. And we would try to warn everyone. Instead, it turns around that we are the cause of it, and it's just the opposite. We keep on talking about corporations because you're not going to get away from that by going into some of these people that are trying to pull people in are working for those corporations inadvertently. They're not even aware of it. That's another thing we understand. And we don't even want to blame anyone at this point. This whole thing, like I said, is very sad for us to observe. I didn't know how to address it because every time I go to address something like this, I have people complaining, saying this, that, and the other thing, and now I'm getting used to it. I'm just like, not that I should be getting used to it. I should not be getting used to this. But like I said, how many people are going to have health issues? You know, um, like Tomas. Tomas got hit really hard. We've been trying to help him and, trying to help him understand his 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 role here. Things are happening in these other places that bleed through, and then it's happening here. And trying to get that understanding through to him, through to whoever wants that information, because people are still coming to us trying to sort things out, and we can find answers, but we can't find answers for people who are blaming us. It's a waste of time to blame us. I mean, you can, but then who's going to give you the advice of what is actually happening with you if you're thinking that if we're not actually doing it, which we aren't, if we're not actually doing this, which we aren't, then you're ignoring who is doing it. And that's your real problem because it won't go away. And so that's why, some people say, oh, she put out another video. Jessica's put out another video um, about a topic that maybe is not very interesting, or maybe it is interesting, or this is just soft disclosure. We don't know if we believe this or not. That's fine. It's fine. Those that understand know I'm trying to help you and give you some inside information of the mindset and what's going on and how it's happening and where we're headed. Since 2021, there was another thing that was happening. There were people around James, and maybe even started happening before, that were giving him psychic advice, remote viewing advice. Um, some of the stuff was really nasty. It was horrible, actually. Um, I don't know where people's minds are at, but I think that they're trying, when they don't like someone, they say that they're putting people through these my labs, or they're participating in it. And I had multiple messages. And so, some of these people are trusting 100% these individuals. I don't know if maybe they're not understanding what they're looking at, or, because you have to be a little savvy when you're dealing with the astral. There's imitators, there's shapeshifters, there's all sorts of different things. But I'm leaning more towards that they said something and then they got a form of approval. People were concerned, had been, saying negative stuff about us, and then they just fulfilled, an answer that the people sort of suspected, and they were getting approval for making comments like this, and so it was endorsed. And what did this do? It further created a rift. So now we have major rifts happening within the community due to misunderstandings, wrong information, and I just started seeing the victims group exponentially grow, bigger and bigger and bigger. The people around me were getting better because I was directing them in the right way. I'm not saying I'm the only one that can do this, but if you don't see people getting better, you don't have the answer. And you need to stop messing with these people. Whoever you are, I'm asking you, very politely. These are lives, these are souls. And whether or not they like us or disagree with us, I do feel protective of people that have heard our information. I don't want anything to happen. Some really terrible things could happen. And if you don't know what you're talking about, and if you don't understand the corporations and also the people, why are you searching for and talking to people, psychics that don't work in this field? And there are psychics from all different areas, or regressionists, and they don't fully understand what we're doing, much about the super soldiers, and maybe they have more of a new age leaning or something else. And some of these people also mixed with, psychological backgrounds and Freudian belief systems, and they don't believe in other dimensional spaces, and they don't necessarily believe in um, all sorts of things. And like if a person wants to go there, that's fine, but you understand perspective of where they're coming from and what that they would gather from this. And so because people have gone to alternative people within these communities that don't fully understand now, those people are the go-to person, and they still don't understand. And I've heard them talking about our content to people that's incorrect, on our website, because they don't know. They're just gathering information from what people are asking them in questions and doing sessions. And then suddenly now they're the expert about our content. So it's created a lot of really weird scenarios. And of course, it's not going to answer anything. It's not going to be a solution. And it's further going to be detrimental. And honestly, if we care about everyone, let's try to do the right thing. And even the people that have wronged us, we're trying to just pass by it. We're sticking to our truth, because if there's not any truth, it's not going to help anyone. If Peter says a certain thing or, has worked with certain individuals and he tells them what they've experienced, and then either they don't understand it or they don't believe it or whatever, and then they get angry. And then now the complaint is they have to pay for it because early on it was free. But they didn't, some of the people really not only didn't appreciate it, but was bad-mouthing Peter. So that stopped that. You can thank those people. Don't get mad at Peter. I'm the one that stopped that. And like I said, I don't think anyone should be mistreated. And when he gives you information, if you don't fully understand, and we still try to explain it to you, and then you're still angry, and then you start trolling us on our channel or something like that, there's comes a time where you're going to have to deal with your own personal truth, and that's it's not going to help you. It's not going to help anyone to do that, and we have to stick by what is true because it's not going to help that person or people around them if we lie about, whether someone was in a program or not. Um, but there's more than one program, but it's like trying to understand this is difficult. There's a lot of components and moving parts, and so we probably could continue to define things. We also have lots of other content, so there's so much that there is a lot to wade through and research. And we really, really want the best for everyone. Um, I know that I don't want to be too idealist and think that everything's going to be wonderful, but I wanted to be open and talk about not just James, but James was an integral part here. I mean, he clearly had the charisma and the following that brought a lot of people in. He did get a lot of people to understand this topic. She did very well. He still doesn't have the answers that Peter has, but I think Peter didn't mind that James was sharing this information if they could receive it from James instead of Peter, or at least the information that Peter said. But I think when um, James was bringing in other information that he wasn't sure about, then we couldn't, agree with that. But that's another whole topic. But let's just stick with this positive side of things is that we um, never wanted this. I often wonder, not often, but in a situation like this, I wonder what would have been like had we not had these rifts, had we not been in this place, and how much further along or how much more information could have been out there that would have helped thousands more, that are trying to figure out what's going on in their life and why they have these memories and so forth. And that I guess we'll never know. Um, it's sad. It's sad for me. I know that Peter's sad about it. I know that Peter saw James as a friend, not just a soldier, but a friend at one point, and it was hard for him to walk away. And he's not the only one that we had to walk away from that turned on us and jumped on us about certain things and we had to hold our ground. But we leave the comments open. As long as it is not derogatory, I hope James receives this in the sentiment and how I'm portraying it. Peter did not ask me to do it. I'm doing it on my own, but I did talk to him at some point that I wanted to discuss these things. I know that, James has said that we're part of the cabal. We're not part of the cabal. We're not part of the NSA. We're not part of the agencies. ACIO works with all nations, all people, but we are not like in secret societies or anything like that. And I know some people are. Maybe you know, maybe we have some members that are participating in certain things, but it's apart from us. It's not, we don't micromanage people like they think. But when it comes to certain soldier thing and truth and honesty, integrity, that sort of thing is really important to us, and particularly with me, because Peter does his work. He'll come out and talk to someone, and then he leaves, and I'm here standing in the forefront. So uh, I need to have everything in order, and I need to have some integrity. I need the truth. I need honesty. I need real people, and I hope all of you are one of them. That said, thank you for listening, and let's send prayers to James. Maybe he'll accept it, maybe he doesn't, but I do it anyhow. Um, and also to Tomas, who's still getting through what he's getting through, and the future of the soldiers that want to be here, that want to help, and those that are supporting them. Thank you for listening, and have a good day.